Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Bava Kama Daf Kuf Beis. We are going to begin on Kuf Aleph Amud Beis in the middle of this short Amud by the two dots. Rava Rami. So Rava asked a contradiction. On one hand, Tanan, it says in Masechtas Shvius, Mimin Hatsoivin, regarding the various species of dyes, Sfiche Stim, V'koitza yeshem shvius v'demehem shvius. These are different plants that are used for a dye. So the din is that not only does it have a din of shvius, but their value also v'demehem shvius. So what exactly is this referring to? So says Rashi. Again, these are specific dyes. Yeshem v'demehem shvius. Shein oismehem schayra. You can't use these for business transactions on Shemitah. Why? You are allowed to eat the Shemitah, the Shvius, the produce that grows. However, you cannot use it for schayra, for business. The you can't dye with them. Dainu schayra. Of a motarin hain lahasikan kanim zmanabir. You could actually burn it before the Zman Habir. So the idea is that you can use Demei Shvius, but it cannot be left over. There's a Zman Biur that if it's not consumed, it needs to be destroyed. And therefore, if it was done with Schayra, so then it's possible that you're not going to end up having it destroyed afterwards. Therefore, that's the reason when the Yeshua Habir, V'lodemei Habir, which is the reason why there's a din biur. Says Rashi, Kishagiz man habir chay v'varon, Dechsiv l'behemta v'chaya, Kol chay min asada kal behemta chashav b'vitecha, V'ani sviche eitz ba'almaninhu. So the din is that, again, when it comes to these dyes, we have this strict law. You're going shvius. Alma eitzim yesh behem yishum kedusha shvius. So we see that wood, there's a din of kedusha shvius by wood. Raminhi, as we learned in Masechta Sukkah, Ali Konim v'ali Gefanim, if you have these different branches from reeds or grapevines, she give one b'chava al pnei asada, and you pile them up. B'chava, Rashi says, lasos mehen machmo oitzer, to make it into like a storage house, only moisa chayra for the winter, like you're saving it. Al pnei asada, it could be done al pi asada. If it was for eating, so then it has the din of kedusha shvius. However, here's the key words: le'etzim ein behen mishum kedusha shvius. So we see clearly that there is no din kedusha shvius on wood, and therefore even after the zman habiur, you could still get hana from this wood. So it's a stira. The first statement said that wood, there is Yeshem Mishum Kedusha Shvius, and this one says not. Umeshani Amakra, the pasuk says La'achla. B'mi Shahanasu Ubir Shavin. The only time there's a din Kedusha Shvius is dafka, it's something like food, in which the hana that you get when you eat it, you're also destroying it. So therefore that will have a din of Kedusha Shvius. Yatsu Eitzim Shanasan Achar Be'irun. However, if let's say it's wood, which is, let's say, for firewood, so even though you do get hana, but the biur takes place first, it's getting burnt up, but the hana is only after it's made into coals, after it's already been burnt up. And therefore, firewood doesn't have a din of kedusha shvius. So let's slow down. So it says Rashi, Yatsu eitzim shul acher biuron shenasim gecholim, it's made into coals, who dahavi ikar hanasa. That's the main hana of a minit savayim. When it comes to dyes, b'shas ritzichas hayayra, as soon as it gets hot in the vat, kol hasharish v'koitel tatzeva. So that's when the dye is fit to be used. Nimsa hanasa nubirin shava. So therefore, as you're getting hana, it's also being distorted at the same time. Hilka chayelak shvius. Therefore, dyes do have the din of shvius, but not wood. That's the difference. Dye is not like regular stam eitzim, which is lahasaka for burning. So when the pot boils the roots, the dye is immediately produced. So it is like food, mashin cane, by regular wood, which becomes coal. Back in the Gemara. So achlos maybe shanasam bir shavin yatsu eitzim shanasam achbiron. Avahoika eitzim demashchan. There are types of woods that it's, says Rashi, it's kinera vuka, like a candle, and therefore you need it for that purpose. The hanasan bir shavin, because you light a piece of wood on fire, and you're getting hana with the fire as it's burning. So apparently wood sometimes does have that benefit if you are out of flashlights. So that should be the same thing. So Rabbi says, okay, that may be true, but that's not the normal circumstance. As we continue, and therefore it's not really to produce light, but rather it's produce again coals for cooking or for heating purposes. This is actually a machlokas, the sanya. Ein moisen perish shvius. You cannot give over perish shvius for the purpose lola mishra v'lo kvusa, not for soaking and not for laundering. This is all sukkah, straight down. Rabbi Yosi, perish shvius lo toicha mishra. You could use it to soak flax, lo toicha kvusa, and to launder. So we have a machlokas when it comes to kvusa and to lemishra. So my time to Rabbanan. Why the Rabban say no? Because I'm a crow. So he says that we learn out that the pasuk says l'achla, which is saying that you can eat it. That's a way of destroying it, but you cannot do mishra or kvusa. That's not allowed. Rav Yosi Amar Kol Lechem V'Chol Sarchechem. No. You can use it for any purpose, not something which is just for eating, but you could also use the perish shvius for other purposes, for soaking flax or whatever it is. That's also okay. Rabbanan Nami Haksiv Lechem. So Lechem is Dumad Dil Achos. We said, B'misha Nasu Bir Shavin Yasu Mishra Kvusa Shanasan Achar Birun. So the only thing you're allowed to do is something which is like eating, which destroys it at the same time. However, Mishra Kvusa, in which the Hana is after the Bior, so therefore that's not an acceptable method. Fine. So Rashi says, Hana Shehi B'Shah Shehu Kolman Oilam At Yochli Hanos Meperish Shvius Kunim Zman Bir. You're allowed to get Hana only if it happens at the same time. However, if the Hana is only after the Bior, then no. Fine. Okay, there's a long Rashi over here. Okay. So what does he do with that word? So you can use it for eating, but not mulugma, which we'll discuss what that is. So kashu emer lechem har kvusamar. You could use it for laundering. So my riso rabbis kvusa heitzis hamulukma. So you're including one, excluding the other. Why one and not the other? So mar benias hakvusa. I'll include the laundering sheshav v'choladam, because it's something which applies to everyone. Everyone needs to launder their clothes. Umaitzi anias hamulukma exclude that shenu shav v'choladam. So what's not shav? Why is mulugma not shav b'chol adam? So Rashi says that it is ein osricha el chaylim. So this is some type of medicinal purpose. So that's mulugma. So that is something which is only for someone who's sick, and therefore that would be an exclusion because it's not including all people. Come on, also hadasanya. V'achav mulugma ziluf. Says Rashi, Shemazalfin Yayin Babayas used to sprinkle wine in your house to be able to calm the dust of the house. Not everyone does this. Only someone who is a little more particular, that's what they would do. apiktozivin, which is actually a play of words, which is haki, is in order to be able to vomit. So it's that it's to apik, it's to go out your zin, your mazayin, your food. The Rashi and Sukkah discusses it that way, so it doesn't say it here. Maybe this is what it's saying. Veshet lahaki, right? So your veshet is your food pipe, your esophagus, lahaki, in order to extract food. So it's some type of medicine to basically get you to throw up. So Kaman Rabbi Yosi, that's only like Rabbanan, because the Rabbanan Ikanami Misha Kvusa. Because Misha Kvusa is actually a machlokas. So if it was the Rabbanan, they would have included that as well. Question 13. Ha'im mutu lasos Misha Kvusa machlokas. Lugma maperish shvius? No. Okay. Weiter. Simin Saban. Okay, that was Sukkah. Yosef Rabbi Yosef, and why is it in Sukkah? Because it talks about what do you do with shvius if you have an esrog. So can you buy it? Can you use it? So how do you purchase an esrog? But by lulav, it's not an issue because it's considered to be like eitzim. Okay. Yosef Rabbi Yosef Achori de Rabbi Abba Kamei de Rabbi Huna. Yosef Rabbi Huna became a halacha Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. The halacha is Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. But halacha Rabbi Yehuda, and the halacha is also like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. So what is going over here? So first of all, Adrinu Rabbi Yosef Apei. So Rabbi Yosef apparently was dissatisfied with this, and he turned his head. So Amr Bishlam Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Yitzrach Salka Dedachamina Yachad Rabbi Malacha Karab Kamash Malacha Kiyachid. Okay, let's go slow. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Who is Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha? Who is Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha? I'm digging a little bit to find a Mishnah over here. Let's see. Okay. So our Mishnah is actually a Machlokas Rami and Rabbi Yehuda. We go to Kufam at Beis about Hanois and Semot Sava. So that is not what we're talking about over here. And we were talking about Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Let's see, is Rashi help me out over here? Okay, we'll have to come across this. So Bishlam Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Yitzrach Sachdamina Yochavam Halacharam Kamash Mulan Halacha Kiyochid. That we find that the halacha is still like a das yochid. Why am I not able to find where Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha is? So this whole sugya was Rabbi Yossi and the Tanakama. Rav Kahana talked about Perish Shvius. We start off with a stira of Rava. Let's see. Before that, we're talking about Shvach B'Simanim. There's a couple Shotim in that. And then did about Arl and Shvius. Okay. Not sure why I can't find the Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. It's probably right in front of me. I can't find. Okay. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Mahi. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Okay, the Gemara is right here. I can't find it anywhere, and it's in the next sugya. Okay. Can I mamish make a lading when I do this? So bear with me. The Sag Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Eimer Milva b'shtar ein Ephraim mehen Milva alpen Ephraim mehen Mishu kamatzel miyadam. Okay. So what is this talking about? So Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says, when it comes to a loan which is b'shtar, so you cannot collect from them, says Rashi, lifnei eidehem, on their holiday, regarding avodah zara, mipnei shesimchahi loy, because you're causing joy in this case. The azul umoidul akum b'yoyim chagam, they'll say, oh, it's because of my God, lowercase g, my idol that caused this great thing. So according to Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, he says, when it comes to a milva b'shtar, you cannot collect because you'll still be able to get it because you have a document. But of a milva peh, we're not going to be as strict because it's mamash kamatzel miyadam, because you'll be able to possibly collect. I don't care when it is, because they could always just deny it. It says Rashi, so we hold like this cool of Rabbi Shimon Karcha. Okay, couldn't find Rabbi Shimon Karcha. It's because we didn't see it yet. El halacha Rabbi Yehuda lamuli. So the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda, we understand, is the machlokas in our Mishnah between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. So machlokas v'achach stamhi, u'machlokas v'achach stam v'achach stam. So we have our Mishnah, which is a machlokas, and then afterwards there's a stam Mishnah. So anytime there's a machlokas and a stam Mishnah, it must be the halachas like the stam Mishnah, because obviously we knew there was an argument, and all of a sudden another Mishnah doesn't mention the argument. So machlokas b'Bava Kama. So this again, the Gemara explains it. Machlokas b'Bava Kama, which is the Masechta we're learning, right? So you're given a task. You didn't steal anything, but you were given a task to dye red. It became black. Black, it did red. So we had numerous proofs from this that, according to our mayor, all he has to do is give back the value of the wool, which we see that he's koine. He doesn't have to give the shvach, the improvements, assuming there's improvements. We see over here, this is b'shogeg. We don't knas and b'shogeg. There's numerous things that we saw from here already. But Rameir also seemingly holds that he's koine, and umev is umen koine is b'shvach kli. So we find, according to Yehuda, no, you just give him yadu al tachtaina, and if the expenditure is more than the improvements, then just give him the improvements. If the improvements is more than the expenditure, then you just pay the expenditure. You only have to pay the smaller on the amount, and that's it. So ustam b'Bava Matzia. So again, so that was a machlokas, which we saw a couple of daf ago and quoted numerous times. And then next Masechta, here's a little sneak peek into the next Masechta. That none kol mishane, anyone who does something different, yadu al tachtoina. So you'll be yadu al tachtoina. So what is yadu al tachtoina? Which is the case, our case, that you change from red to black to red. So Rabbi Yehuda says yadu al tachtoina. So you can just pay the lesser of the amount, and therefore yadu al tachtoina. So that's clearly like the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. The whole chayzbo yadu al tachtoina, and when he retracts, same thing. But that's not the point. So the question is, what do you mean? It's so obvious that the halachas are Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because of course we just learned this Mishnah here in some machlokas, and what, you don't already know B'Mutzia? You don't know the Mishnayos? I know we haven't done Daf Yomi yet, but come on. So the reality is you should know the Mishnah in B'Mutzia. It's a stam. So therefore, obviously, who's a halachas of Rabbi Yehuda? Rav Huna Itzruch. So why do you need it? And the answer isn't because maybe we didn't know it. The answer, you know it. Of course, you know all the Mishnayos cold. So Tzalchadai Techamina Ein Seder LaMishnah. Maybe the fact that you have certain Mishnayos written in one place, even though B'Mutzia is the next Masechta, we don't say that there's an actual order of Mishnayos. Ustam b'achach machlokasi. Maybe that statement in B'Mutzia is the first time it was mentioned, and then now we're introduced to another Mishnah which we just saw in Bava Kama, which is a machlokas. So therefore, the point is that halach is still like Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Yosef, ihachi kol machlokas v'achach stam nema ein sedel Mishnah. Ustam b'achach machlokasi. If you're going to accept that, you can say that by anything. You can always say, oh, there's ein sedel mishnayos. Then you can never apply the rule of any case of what comes chronologically. The whole notion of stam v'achach machlokas, or machlokas v'achach stam, is saying that there's a reason why the mishnayos are written in a particular order, and therefore, how do we understand that? For Rav Huna, kilo amrinan ein sedel mishnah b'chad masechta, avol b'trei masechta samrinan. So if you have one masechta, or we're learning Bava Kama, or we're learning Masechtas Brachos, let's say, So there's a reason why all the Mishnayos are written in a particular order. However, if you have two Masechtas, because they're just talking about different topics, we're not going to say that there's a reason for the Mishnayos there as opposed to Mishnayos here. And you can understand that because they're different topics altogether. So if it happens to be that two Mishnayos cross-reference to similar ideas, so we're not going to say, oh, it's a Stam V'Achach Machlokas or vice versa. Rabbi Yosef Kul Nezikin Chana Masechtahi. He says, no, all of Nezikin is considered like one Masechta, or at least Baba Kama, Baba Matzim, Baba Basra. Now, even though, what do you mean it's one Masechta? So you're not to make a Siyam in a few days when we finish the Masechta? It means that Baba Kama, Matzim, Baba Basra, first of all, you can hear by the names that they're all linked together as one Masechta. Each of them are 10 prakim, which is a total of 30, which some people say it's similar to Masechtas Kalim, which is 30 prakim. But the point is that even if you want to say, really, of course, they are separate, but the point is that they, even though they are somewhat different topics, they're all related because it's all about damages. And therefore, there is a seder to those Mishnayos. Anything found in Bava Kama, Bava Matzim, Bava Basra, or in one Masechta. The Mishum Dekatani law Gami Hilchos Apsikta. Kol Mishani Yado al Tachtaina, Kol Chayzerbo Yado al Tachtaina. Because it's a very clear mentioning, says Rashi, Hach Stama Vadi Ikerhu. This must be the main thing. Dekatani Luhasam Bava Matzia Gami Hilchos Apsikta. So because it's so clear, it's a very clear cut halacha that he's saying this is the rule, these are the laws, this is how it works. So it seems clear that that's what the halacha is. Okay. If a person gives money to his shliach, and this is going to eventually be question 14 as we continue to cook beis with beis, likach lo chitin, and you gave it to him for the purpose of buying wheat, the lacham him sa'orin, but he didn't do what he was supposed to do, and he bought barley, or sa'orin v'lachach men chitin. So Tanicha, one brisa says, in pachasu, if you absorb some type of a loss because of his mistake, pachasu loy, so the loss is on him, is on the shliach for having made that mistake. V'im hoisiru, and if let's say somehow you benefited from his mistake, hosiru loy. So basically, it's almost like the shliach owns it, and therefore whatever happens, it goes up or down, so it's on the shliach. V'tanichada im pachasu lo. If it goes down, it's on the shliach. But for some reason, the im hosiru emtsa, that they would actually share the profits. So do they share the profits, or does it go completely to the shliach? So I'm Rav Yochanan, and we're going to focus it being Rav Yochanan, Lokasha, or Meir, Rav Yehuda. So what exactly is that? So Hara Meir, the first opinion that says it completely goes to the shliach, if it goes, even if it increases in profits, the Omer Shinu Koina, because as we saw when it came to the wool, we said that if you change the color, so the person keeps the wool, and he just has to give him the value of the wool to the owner of the wool. So therefore, it's the same thing over here. This shliach is koine the wheat or the barley, up or down. Bahar Yehuda. And the second statement that says, if it goes down, it goes down on the shliach, but if it goes up, you profit. He holds that you're not koine. So Mask Rebbe Lezer, Mamai, how do you know that this is the proper way of understanding this stira? Dilma Adkan Lo Kamara Meir, maybe the only time Rav Meir says when it came to the case of the dye, El Bamida de Chazili Lagufe, if it's something in which is fit for its in itself, says Rashi, Semer Lilboish, the Savsel Ishtamish, even without the dye, the wool in itself has utility. So maybe that's when he says it. Lo, says Rashi, anything where there is potential gain, and therefore if it goes up, maybe that's not considered to be a shinoi. In other words, whatever makes money you can say I like. So maybe shinoi won't be kaina when he changed it from his shlichus. Sa'el Rabbi Lezer Hava Harameir Lo Kasha Kan Lachila Kan L'Schaira. So if it was L'Achila, so he was exact in what he was saying. So therefore, it's the shliachs. L'Schaira, however, if it was for Schaira, in which again you were hoping that he would make money off of this, so therefore in that situation you're going to say that you're not going to be kaina, and therefore we split the profits. Okay, so Machol Leba Morava. So they kind of laughed, Rav Yochanan, at the interpretation of Rav Yochanan, Libed Rabbi Yehuda, L'chimi Hoidiyoi, L'bal Chitin, who notified the owner of the wheat, Shiach Nechitin L'bal Mois, that he should be machna the chitin to the owner of the money. Now, if Shinu is not koina, so the person who sold the barley only saw the shliach. He had no idea about this Baal bias, who Lafi Rabbi Yehuda isn't koina, but who was machna it to the original Baal Hamois, to the Baal Habayis, that he should be able to have some connection to it. So masking for Rav Shmuel bar Sisarti, Yihachi Afil Chita V'Chita Namilo. You can ask the same question when it comes to wheat. So Omer Abavo, no, Shani Chita V'Chitin Deshuchus Tekavid. He definitely did the shlichus. L'chi Baal Habayis Dami, and therefore he's considered like the Baal Habayis. Did not as Teda, as we've seen elsewhere. Ditanan Echad Hamakdish Nechasav Echad Hamayirech Es Atzmo. A person who is makdish his items, or he made an erchin on himself. Ein lo b'ksus ishtoi v'lo b'ksus banav v'lo b'tseva shetzava l'shmon. Okay, so we're not going to include, if he did erchin for himself, he's not going to include his wife's clothing, because even though he was makdish basically all of his possessions. Let's say that case. So it doesn't include his wife's clothes or his children's clothes or the dye, which was lishmon for them. Not new shoes that he bought for them. Why do we say not? Who informed the dyer that it was for his wife? We say the shuchasai ko'avid, because he did the shlichus, ukiad ishtodami, and therefore it's considered like the hand of his wife. Hachanami the shlichus avid ukiad bal bayastami. So if it's chitin b'chitin, so then certainly it's not a question, because he was doing what he was asked to do. But when it comes to wheat to barley, then we have this question. That's the reason why they didn't understand the logic of Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, let's slow down for a second. Look at question 14. You gave money to a guy to buy wheat, and he bought barley. Rameir delegabit seva sirli deshinu seva ma'adam mishchor koina, that person owns it. Ha'im hu adin hacha yikne hashliach shishina. Do we say that the shliach also keeps the barley, the imho sir lo, and therefore he completely gets the profits, not just the losses that everyone holds, even the profits, not that he splits it. So this is what he writes. If the wheat is for eating, so therefore it's something which in itself is fit within itself, so it's just like wool, which in itself has utility, and therefore since he changed it, just like they changed the color of the wool by dyeing it the wrong color, but he was koine it, b'shinoi. So too when it comes to food, the fact that it was for eating, so in itself it could be consumed, and in itself, and therefore that it was exchanged, so the shliach is koine. If the whole purpose was for business transactions, lav shinoi hu did nichle b'chol ravcha. Anything that could give him a profit will be a profit, and therefore in that case you would say the shliach is not koine, and therefore they'll just split it. They'll split it down the middle. Okay. Weiter. So continue. So again, right now we're saying that If it's chita b'chita, it's not a question. But how would he know that with schayra there's this baal bias in the picture, right? Fine. So l'shilchas kochu avim k'ad baal bias dami. Right. Amar Rabbi lo kol makdish nechasav ein daito al ksus ishtoi uvanov. Anyone who's just push it. It has nothing to do with doing shlichus or it's kiyad isha. It's just when a person is makdish something, he doesn't have his wife's clothes or his children's clothes in mind. And that's the only reason. And therefore that's why it's not part of the cheshbon. So it's not a raya. Maskav Rabbi Zera, v'chi daito shel adam al tefillah. Does a person have das regarding his tefillin? Utanan hamakdish nechasav, if you're makdish everything, Malin lo tefillin. We also evaluate the tefillin. Now, his das wasn't on his tefillin, yet it becomes kodesh. So maybe the same thing is by his wife and his kids' garments. Shamli by id, yes. Daita shel adam al tefillin. A person's das is on his tefillin. And therefore, because of that, he's also thinking to be makdish his tefillin. Hamakdish chasav, someone's makdish his nechasim, savar mitzvah kavdina. I'm doing a mitzvah. However, so when it comes to tefillin, it's good because I'm doing a mitzvah. However, als eva, a person is not going to want to do this to get rid of his wife's, to include his wife and kids' clothing, because it's going to cause fighting and animosity in the house. Fine. Okay. Weiter. Maskiv Rabbi Yishav Erechin Shanukan. It also talks about Erechin as well, right? Because it doesn't just talk about being makdish, it also talks about being marich yourself. So and therefore Utanan Chavi Erechin Mimashkinin Oisai. So when it comes to Chavi Erechin to collect, you can actually take a mashkin from him. And Rashi says that's Bal Karcho, even against his will. Alma Vamishum Daitahu. It's not because he was hoping that would happen. V'chi Daita Shel Adam Al Atzmo Mashkinoi. The person doesn't have das that he's going to hope that forcibly someone's going to take collateral until I pay for my pledge. So the reason is, there's nothing to do with das, accepting that. It's just when a person's makdish's nechasim, it's ki'ilu that he was makna the ksus ishto banav to his children and his wife first. And basically that he has no legal connection to it. Tanur Rabbanan. A person purchases a field in the name of his friend, so you don't have to force him to sell. If you say al manas on condition, then then you actually have to sell. So my camera, what's this talking about? So I'm Rav Sheshes. B'shem reish galusa, that you purchased a property and you said, I'm doing it for the Reish Galusa, this is a very important person, in Reish Galusa limchor. The Reish Galusa is not going to force that it will actually be to be sold. So the reality is, it isn't really for the Reish Galusa, but just so my land will be more safe, no one will take it. So that's the reason why he may have said that. Says Rashi, so no one's going to come and complain. So you're saying, I'm buying this field in the name of the Reish Galusa. So even though it's not really for the Reish Galusa, but this way no one will bother him. So in Kaifin is Reish Galusa limchor. The im oimal manas Kaifin es Reish Galusa limchor. Omar halukech sad b'shem Reish Galusa in Kaifin es Reish Galusa limchor. As we said, Machlal the mikne kanyule. It sounds like there's a kinyan over here. Lema pliga de b'nei marava the amri v'chim. In Eretz Yisrael they say v'chim mi hoidiu l'bal chitin shik nechit l'bal bayis. Like, who told him about this? As we said, when it came to the wheat, and then the shliach bought barley, or vice versa. As we said, if a shinu isn't kaina, the person who sold the barley only saw the shliach, who, if you're Yehuda, isn't kaina, but who was makne to the original bal habayis. So you can say the same thing here. Imishum holokashik goin the oidi lo bal sada the oidin hu lutzadi, that he let the bal sada and witnesses know that this is what his motivation was. El ema seifa. Amnas kafnoi reish galusa limchor mai. Blame reish galusa. Let them say Lo yirkaichu be'ina, I don't want your honor. Lo zilusaichu be'ina, and I don't want this detriment, says Rashi. Lo yirkarchu she'asisim oisi roish lahatal ema, that you're basically saying that I'm such a great person to spread fear. I also want the disgrace, she'atem boim lasos oisi l'moicher sadois, that you're coming, that I'm coming to basically cause people to sell their fields. El Omer Abai Hakakam Holokesad B'Shem Chaveroi. This is really what he means. If you purchase a field in the name of your friend, in parentheses Reish Kalusa, Ein Kaifanoiso Hamoicher Limchor Zimna Achriti. We are not going to force the seller, focusing on the seller, to sell it another time to the real buyer. Okay, what does that mean? So it says Rashi on Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, Ein kaifin es hamoicher, ulachsav lichtav shtar mechira, acher l'lokeach. We don't require him to, the moicher, the seller, to write another document to the buyer, shahayo l'shanois l'hoidia kosav shtar b'shem reish galusa, that it was written in the name of the reish galusa. Shem yotzo sikin, Irolhem, you can show them this document. Shushal reish galusa, this land belongs to him. Because of li shtar acher b'shmi, but I want you to write a second document in my name. Shol yavo hayoyim olamacher yosh rosh goyla l'toivim many. The problem is, if I keep telling everyone it belongs to Reish Galusa, maybe they're going to take it away. So I'm going to have this fake document. I want you to write saying it belongs to Reish Galusa. So anyone who comes to bother me, I'll just say this belongs to Reish Galusa. You better not mess, and therefore they'll walk away. But I want another one to actually prove it really is my property. So that is no. We're not, the one who's the seller does not have to write another document to the real buyer if this is the case. However, if in fact he said do this on condition, in other words, I want you to please do this, otherwise it's not a good sale, then because that was a stipulation, then that will be the din. Okay, we're going to stop here. Question TA 30, all the way back to Kuf Beis Amud Aleph. B'gemar yalfu achlo mishul achlo kfusav achlo mugma b'ma shainim hanois elu michol hanois shemutaris b'perish shvius. How are these different? I guess the answer is not shav b'chol adam. Okay, Malug mentions Mishnah Kvusa, Hanasan Acher Bi'irun. So that would be the reason why TA 30, why this would be different. So because mites, as it says here, mites yani es hamalugma shenu shava b'chol adam, which is TA 30. Let's see if the newest test actually has something too. TB1. Oloketsa b'shem chavero. Reish Galusa v'chu. V'im armanas kaifin es hamoicher limchor. Matirutz b'gemara al shelo pshita the kaifin ma'acher shehisna. So what exactly is this? And do I actually have the answers? No, but I have the answers. The answer I wrote. Let's see what I wrote. Hoyel shehu hat hisna b'fnei edim, since he made this condition in front of witnesses. Zeh hadavar yadua shehu oisa Kain b'shvil shehu chayzer v'kaysev shtar cheres b'shvilo afal pi lo hisna et zeh l'moicher avol adayin hu chayiv lichtav shtar cheres. So this is a little bit confusing what I wrote, but I think what I'm trying to get at is this Gemara up top over here on Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, and that is basically saying that normally we're not going to force the moicher to write another document. However, if it was a stipulation as such, then that would be the case. Let's read the question one more time. Halakesad b'shem chavero im oimra v'nas kaifin es hamoicher limchor pshita de kaifin mi'acher shehisna. It was already the condition. It should be pretty obvious that you should have to do so. All right, maybe the Gemara is going to actually continue with that a little bit too on tomorrow's daf. So we'll just mark it as Kuf Gimel with Aleph, but maybe we'll see that again. Okay, let's conclude with Rabbi Gibber's test. Let's see. Be'ez eitzim amrinan de iser shvius noyeg behem be'ez eitzim ein iser shvius noyeg. Species for dyes, there is a din of shvius since the pleasure and destruction happen at the same time. But other trees are used for cooking. Okay. So there's no din shvius. Okay. Anavim she nilkatu lishrois pishton. Ha'im yesh behem kedusha shvius machokas. Ha'im mutar lishtamish beper shvius l'malugma. No. Ha'im mutar lifroya min nachrei b'milva b'shtar lifnei avihen. No. The machokas is by a milva al peh, as we saw in Rashi, which I couldn't figure out who that was until the Gemara said it. As we saw that he only has to give back the demei tzemer if he exchanged red to black, black to red. Mahadin ba'omer l'shliach likach lochitin v'lokach sa'arim. Give me wheat instead of barley. V'yachach hosiru hasa'arim. Then all of a sudden the barley goes up in value. So Rabbi Yehuda, this is Fira Meir, I don't know why I wrote. So he says, according to Rabbi Yehuda says, can't read that. According to Rabbi Lezer, that if for eating the shliach is kaina, if for business where he doesn't care, the shliach is not. Not exactly what we're looking for, but it's pretty close. Ma chidish. The haloikech sada b'shem reish galusa v'yomer almanash yichtav lo hamoicher shtar achrina the kaifin l'moicher lichtay, which is which was the other question. You'd think he could say, I thought you were speaking to the Eidim to wait and write another star by the reish galusa, not by me. Adkan.